My name is Mary Esther Freeman. I'm a junior communication major here at Berea College, and I'm joined today by Mr. Enrique Moronez. You were involved in trying to get the Major League Baseball All-Star Game in 2011 moved out of Arizona.
That's right. Yeah, very
Could
good.
you give us a little background about what that was about?
Well, I used to be in professional baseball, so I know that baseball does not have a very good history on diversity issues, especially with this commissioner, Bud Selig, who, thank God, is on his way out. But anyways, in 1993, the NFL was going to have their Super Bowl in Arizona. And the Players Association got together and said, we don't want the Super Bowl here. Arizona was the last state to honor the Martin Luther King holiday. They weren't honoring that. So the NFL moved the Super Bowl out of Arizona. Well, Major League Baseball decided to have its All-Star game in Arizona in 2001. So we said, we don't want the game there. The game is in an American League city, then a National League city. Well, it was Arizona's turn, and so we started this campaign. We got a lot of players not to play in the All-Star game, but unfortunately the game was still held there.
Right.
People have not forgotten that Major League Baseball did this, Bud Selig did this, and I thought it was really shameful because Arizona is the state that's one of the most anti-immigrant states in the country. A third of the players in Major League Baseball are Latino. Arizona's where the Minutemen got started, those the racist vigilantes, where Senate Bill 1070 was started, where there's more people dying crossing in the desert in that area. Sheriff Joe Arpaio's in Arizona. So there's a long history of these neo-Nazi type groups in Arizona. And how is it possible that baseball, with a third of its players being Latino, wants to celebrate that in Arizona? So some players didn't show. The game was still held, but we haven't forgotten that Major League Baseball really didn't pay attention to the Latino community.
Well, I thought that it was interesting in doing some research about you that was one of the first stories that popped up. So how do you feel that media attention from that story in particular has sort of helped your cause? Have you noticed any changes?
Well, we've had a lot of stories. I mean, since we started our organization back in 1986, I've had the honor and the privilege of being on the Larry King Show, the Today Show, movies, books, things like that. So we've had a lot of exposure, all the national networks. That was one particular story. Robin Young from National Public Radio did the interview. It was powerful. A lot of people knew me mainly from baseball, and then all of a sudden they said, oh yeah, I remember that guy. But really my human rights work is what takes precedence, and that's what I've been doing since 1986. So the fact that we've had, whether it was the firestorm in California, there was a big story in the New York Times about our work, or with CNN, they've been with us a lot. As a matter of fact, I'm speaking with CNN this Monday. I'm going to their studios in Los Angeles. So I think media has been in general very supportive of getting the word out about our work. Even people like CNN, where they know that we were directly responsible for getting Lou Dobbs fired from CNN because it was anti-immigrant position and the lies that he was sharing. So we got him fired, and now he's where he belongs on Fox Network. So we are, we're very active. We get a lot of media attention. I do interviews almost every day. As a matter of fact, I've done 2 this morning where the people called in and I did these radio interviews. So we're out there quite a bit in Spanish and in English and in other languages. We have groups that come from, we had a group not too long ago that came from France. They came with us, they went out to the desert. And even though I speak a little French, we did the interview in English, and then they translated and tell people about what's happening along the U.S.-Mexican border. Because the undocumented community is a worldwide situation.
Right.
In France, you have a lot of the Middle Easterners that are going there, so that they want to see what's going on in other parts of the world. So it's a worldwide issue.
Well, that brings us to a very interesting topic. I was going to ask you if you noticed any similarities between what's going on between the U.S. and Mexico and Israeli-Palestine issues. Have you noticed any?
Well, there are some similarities. About 12 years ago, I was invited to Israel. So I went to Israel, and I went and I said, I want to talk to both the Jewish community and the Palestinian community. And I did. I went to a place called Seeds of Peace, where they get young people, teenagers, and they spend a summer together. And at first, they kind of go off into their own areas. The Jewish kids are with themselves and the Palestinian kids. But eventually, at the end of the summer, they're both hanging out together. They realize that they have common issues. Boyfriend, girlfriend, school, whatever. Those common type issues. And then that was the whole idea of Seeds of Peace. So, since I went there, every summer a group comes from Israel of Palestinian and Jewish kids. And I give them a talk where you have the wall between San Diego and Tijuana. There's a park there called Friendship Park. And I'll give them that talk, and it's really interesting. I don't take a side on either side. I want them to give me their impressions. And I'll say, what do you think about this? So if it's a Jewish person, they'll usually say, security, we have the terrorists and all this type of stuff. And if it's a Palestinian person, they'll say oppression, they've taken our land. So it's interesting, and I'm sitting there just kind of listening to both sides share their story, and I'm telling them, well, we, the Mexican people, feel oppression, they've taken our land, and so forth, and it's very powerful. So when I've had the opportunity, excuse me, to travel around the world, to hear about what's going on. I was in Ireland not so long ago, and they have a wall with Northern Ireland. So I went up to that wall, and I went into Belfast, and so on and so forth. And it's always interesting to hear the perspective from each side. Just like now, the Jewish-Palestinian argument, they both will argue for their perspective side, and very passionate about it. And you'll see something where you'll say, oh yeah, I can see that. And then the opposition will have another point of view, and you'll say, oh yeah, I can kind of see that. So there are some things where there are similarities, and there are some things where it's unique.
But when we break it down, everybody notices they're all still humans.
That's right.
The human race. So you talked a lot in your convocation about the power of children. You've just talked about the teenagers. Do you see the youth as being a really powerful leader in this
Absolutely.
change?
I think I gave a talk the other day, and somebody even mentioned it today. The youth is our future, and I didn't want to say it today because I said it the other day. My whole theme was the youth is not our future. The youth is our present.
Mm-hmm.
What they're doing now, people like yourselves, what you're doing now. Of course, the future also, but also the present. Because I think a lot of times, and I know that that's not what the person meant today, and that's not what people when they say it. Well, the future will be better off, and I believe that too. But that's almost like giving a pass to what's happening right now. So I say the youth are also our present, and you see the youth movement, how active it's been on this immigration issue.
Mm-hmm.
The dreamers, they've came through here. They've gone through Kentucky and other parts. As a matter of fact, they're right here at this very college, talking about the importance of the dreamers, the undocumented students, being able to go to school and so on and so forth. And I mentioned it today. So the youth are present as well, and they really do inspire me because I've done these national caravans. I've been in every state in the union, and usually where we stay at, we don't know where we're going to sleep, who's going to feed us. Usually we're staying at houses that it's either a bunch of students or there's kids in the house, and so I get to talk to them quite a bit. So I have a lot of confidence in the direction the country is going and where we are today because of the youth.
That's awesome. Makes me feel good. So you mentioned in the convocation the difference between citizenship and documentation. Now, the New York Times just today came out with an article revealing that immigrants are split in a lot of these. Some of them say that they just really want to be able to work in peace and, like you said, come out of hiding, come out of the shadows, feel safe, while still others say that citizenship, the right to vote, is the goal. So what are your thoughts on that?
Right. Well, I know that the woman that wrote that article, she talked to me, Julie or Juliana Myers. Anyways, like she says in the article, the migrant community, they just want to be documented. It's usually the immigration rights groups that say they want citizenship, and I'm going, but it's not you, it's them, it's the migrants. What do they want? They want to be documented. They want to be documented, and I wrote an article, an op-ed that I had sent her, and it talks about that we need humane immigration policies, and that I've been doing this work for over 25 years, and not one person, not one, has ever said, that's the deal breaker. Oh, I need to be a citizen. That's the deal breaker. They just want to be documented. And a proof of that is, right now, according to Pew Studies, there's over 4 million people right now that qualify for citizenship that are residents. So they've already been here, they're already residents, they have their green card and everything. The only thing is they can't vote, but they pay taxes, they're residents. They've been here for a long time, like my mom, more than 50 years. So if those 4 million aren't clamoring to become citizens, why would a new arrival be clamoring for that? They're not clamoring for that. All they want to do is be documented. If you say, and we're going to give you citizenship too, they'll say, sure, why not? But that's not the deal breaker. And I think a lot of the national organizations, some of my very good friends, National Council of La Raza, National Immigration Forum, LULAC, some of the biggest national human rights or immigrant rights organizations in the country, they're all saying citizenship for all. And I'm telling their presidents, Ali Nourani, Janet Murguia, I know them all, and I go, that's not what the migrants want. The migrants want to be documented. Then after they're documented, maybe they'll want to become citizens later on. But the reason that these organizations and the Democratic Party, and I'm independent, and I've worked for two presidential candidates, twice for Barack Obama and once for Al Gore. So I'm, my beliefs are more in the Democratic camp by far. Yet the Democrats want them to become citizens because they know they're going to vote Democrat. Well, the thing is, I'm saying you should become documented. Let them become documented. and let both parties, the Republican and the Democrats, fight over for that right. Who should they vote for? Because right now it's a slam dunk. Who supports the immigrants? The Democrats.
Democrats, yeah.
Who's anti-immigrant? The Republicans. That's an easy position for people to take. And there's some truth to that. However, if we do this, if they become documented, these 11.5 million people, then let both sides fight it out and say, we're going to pass this law and this law. And then the migrants will say, that's really a good law for us. I'm going to go to that party and support it. But right now it's a slam dunk. Everybody's already made up their mind, and we say that's not healthy for the migrants. The migrants want to become documented and eventually become citizens. And there's a big split. And my op-ed came out on November 9th. And I can forward it to you if you want. But that op-ed came out on November 9th, and since then there's been a lot of writings about that issue, saying here's a guy that's saying they don't want to be citizenships, and here's a guy talking about me that's on the front lines. I'm the one that talks to the persons that Julie was talking to. Were not on the front lines. They might be.
They're activist groups.
They're activist groups, or they're people that she talked to in the streets of New York. That's where she's at. New York Times.